Well, hello and welcome to the 2025 Pre-Law Spring Planning Session. My name is Zena Strench. I'm the Chapter Operations Coordinator here at the Executive Office, and with me is Katie Gibbs, Director of Operations. So today, the purpose of our session is to familiarize you with the resources you have available, kind of review your expectations, and then hopefully answer any questions you may have. We really want this to be interactive, so if you have any questions at all during the presentation, feel free to raise your hand, drop the questions in the chat, but we'll also set a time aside at the end to go over any additional questions that you may have, as well as the questions that you submitted during your registration. So that said, we can start getting into it.
This session is being recorded and we'll be posting it onto our YouTube channel for anyone who's not able to attend today, so you can share it with some of your other officers. And we'll also be posting the slides to the resources page at pad.org.
Okay, and here's just a list of everybody here at the executive office. So you get to see our faces, we're real people. Okay, so to start, let's look at our resources. If you haven't already explored our resource page, I highly encourage you to do so. It contains answers to most of the questions you may have. Some really important resources to look over would be your new officer resource guide. That's going to give you guidelines on how to operate your chapter, and include an officer transition checklist, which would be really important in coming elections. You're also going to find links to request new member materials, rosters, recruitment materials. Something I would utilize is you can request a free recruitment box. That's going to include sponsor materials and swag for tabling. So that's a free resource. If you haven't requested one already, I go ahead and do that. You're also going to find more important information like links to have a personal session with either Katie or I. It's a great tool to utilize if you're ever feeling overwhelmed or need specific guidance on anything. You're also welcome to email us at any time, any questions. All right.
So if you guys have any questions about where to find something on our website, I know our website is huge and you might not know where to go. You can always go to resources and policies. Everything that you need for operating the chapter is going to be there. A lot of the information that we're going over today is from the guides that are on this page. So please use this time to ask questions. Anyone who submitted a question before this presentation, we are going to address that during the call. But so that page, it has the guides, but it has all these forms that you need to update your officers, request a recruitment box, request a meeting with us, like I said. If you're not sure where to go, pad.org/resources and policies, and you can find it under the members tab on the website.
Great. So this spring semester, we want to focus on three main priorities: chapter, elections, and transitions. One of the most common emails we get post-elections is from new officers who didn't receive guidance from outgoing officers. So we want to ensure a smooth transition for new leadership. Next would be recruitment and chapter programming. Recruitment and programming can go hand in hand. You want to plan events that will capture the interests of new potential members. And recruitment should be an ongoing effort throughout the year. And lastly, fundraising for pre-law conference. Pre-law conference is going to be held this fall in Washington, D.C., and we expect at least one representative from each chapter to attend. And we'll talk more about pre-law conference later on in our presentation. Okay. Moving on to chapter elections. Let's see. So how does your chapter...
This is one of the questions that you guys submitted ahead of time. So thank you. Phi Alpha Delta is mostly chapters at campuses that are in person. But as you guys all know, post-pandemic, we have virtual chapters now. I know a lot of schools are operating hybridly. So the question was, how does your chapter structure elections? Do you hold them virtually? So if any of you all would like to share how your chapter holds elections, how do you structure them? We would love to hear about it. You can raise your hand. You can go off mute. I know a lot of you guys are officers, so you have been through the elections process with your chapter. And after a few of you will share, we'll give you some of our best practices. Thank you, Joshua. Go ahead. Are you able to unmute yourself? Yes, great.
Yes. Hi. I am unfortunately not able to show my camera right now. However, I am from the Howard University pre-law chapter of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International in Washington, D.C. And how we conduct elections is usually we will have the president will call a nominations meeting, and then we will ask for nominations. So brothers have the ability to nominate, of course, their brothers. And the brother has to accept or decline the nomination. So once the nomination is declined, they're given, of course, another 2 weeks until our next chapter meeting to prepare a speech. And then at the next chapter meeting, we'll allow them some time to give their speech or their presentation. And then, of course, we'll conduct the vote. So I think like this is a good way to do this because the 2 week time period kind of gives the brothers the opportunity to decide whether they still want the position or not. Because when you get into the process of crafting the speech and what you want to do in the position, you kind of realize, oh, maybe I wasn't like really interested in this position as I thought I was. So yeah, that's how we conduct elections. Thanks for letting me share.
I'm really glad that you shared it. And I'm really glad that you introduced yourself. That's kind of a fraternity tradition is that when you do speak that you introduce yourself by name and chapter. So bravo to you to that. I think that's pretty common for our chapters is that you have a nominations period, they give speeches, and then you hold the vote. Raise of hands. How about this? How about we do this? If you do your elections in person, put a thumbs up in the chat. And if you do your elections virtually, put a smiley in the chat. So virtual is a thumbs up, or what I say? In person is a thumbs up and virtual is a smiley. Can anyone who does virtual elections talk to us about how you do them? I would love to hear from someone who does a virtual election. I'm surprised to see so many different ones. Go ahead. I see you, Taylor. Whoever wants to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself.
So we hold virtual chapters by we actually just held elections recently. We gave about a 2 month, 6 week notice period on all of our social media and our platform for school that we were holding elections, which
Taylor, can you tell everyone what chapter you're from?
Oh, sorry. I'm Taylor Cowles. I'm from the National University Pre-Law chapter. In
This
San
is
Diego.
your question.
Yeah. So we did it with a 2 month notice, and then anybody who was interested in it reached out to me, and we kind of gathered the list, and then we set a date for it. And then whoever showed up, they spoke on why they wanted the position, but we didn't really have many people show up, so it was pretty easy to just kind of delegate the positions where they were supposed to go.
Well, thank you for sharing. Does anybody have an election at their chapter that didn't go well? Okay, well then, Azina, go ahead. I'm going to let you move ahead to the next slides where we can talk. Go ahead, Sam. Sam has a story to share.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm on my phone doing this meeting, so if I don't sound great, just let me know.
It's fine.
So we had an election last year.
What chapter are you from?
Temple University.
Thank you.
We had a chapter last year, and the previous leadership didn't set the deadline very clearly for when to register to run for a position. So we had a little bit of a mess where we typically have people that run unopposed, just tends to work out that way. But last minute, there was someone that wanted to run. So we had to decide whether or not that person was allowed because that person technically missed the deadline. And we had to compromise on that. So that was the issue that we had to deal with.
What did your chapter decide?
So one of the people, the person that did meet the deadline, she was going to be graduating after the fall. So we were going to have a special election. So we just encouraged the other person to run going into the spring to take that position.
Okay, I really like that solution. I always like to market Phi Alpha Delta as a leadership opportunity for everyone. I know at convention, which is like for our board, you could run from the floor. So I would say if there's someone who's interested in serving as a leadership position, someone who's interested in giving their time and efforts to Phi Alpha Delta, I say let's let them run and let's see what they may have to offer. Allie, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead, do name and chapter.
Hi, my name is Allison Pike. I'm the vice president at the University of South Florida's chapter. We did a hybrid election last year, actually, so we did both
Interesting.
and virtual options. The way that we sort of conducted that was we did a meet the candidates night where we had everybody who was interested in running was eligible to come and give a speech to the chapter. And if they weren't able to make it, they had to record a video in advance. And then when it came to the elections, we held it at the same time that we would hold our monthly chapter. And if you were unable to make it, we set up a Zoom option, but preferred for everybody to be in person.
Yeah, I think in person is always preferred as well, but I really love that you did have that virtual option because, as things are changing, people do want to be able to have those options. Does anyone else have an election experience that they would like to talk about?
Good or bad?
I think a lot of it comes down to communication. Like Sam was saying that someone didn't meet the deadline. So I would just say start talking about elections now. Start thinking about who you might want in those positions now and see if they're interested. The number one reason that our chapters go inactive is because the chapter either doesn't hold an election or they are not successful in finding people interested in running for a leadership position. So if you haven't already, let's start identifying those future leaders and encouraging them to run for your elections. You guys all know calendars are already due, so everyone in your chapter should already have an idea of when your elections are taking place.
Hello. Oh, sorry. My name's Denora. I'm the president at the University of California Riverside's chapter. And at our school, I'm not sure if this has been mentioned yet, but we have it rather than just nominations, we allow our brothers to announce candidacy and also shadow current chairholders or exec members. And they have the opportunity to see what the position is like for the semester. We have quarter system, so we follow the quarter, and then they have until week 6 to during open forum officially announce candidacy, and then we have our elections during the 8th week of the quarter, and they can either denounce before week 6 or announce, but the shadowing process kind of allows them to really see what the position is like and if they're interested, and they can shadow for as many positions as they'd like. So kind of to combat the issue of like inactiveness or disinterest, allowing them to see what the position is really like kind of helps or has helped UCR's chapter. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Zita and I spend a lot of time holding virtual chapter visits with meetings, and a lot of what we talk about is things that you all tell us. So that's definitely one that I'm going to put into my arsenal. We love a shadowing program. That's the reason we have our elections deadline. You guys should all know elections must be held by the first Monday in April. But we actually prefer if they're held even earlier so that they can go through that shadowing process. But I kind of like at UC Riverside, they take that shadowing process a little bit further where you start shadowing before you have even won that elected position. So great, love that.
Yeah, that is definitely something I think that other chapters should try out and see if it works for them, because that is a number one question we get is, oh my God, I'm a new officer and I was kind of just dropped off in the dark. And that's not good. So there were a couple points that were brought up that I think we're going to address a little bit further. One of them, just to be clear, once you do elect your officers, we want to make sure you report them to us because we do not know if you don't tell us. So we'd like to continue the correspondence so we can send you opportunities and reminders about what's coming up. Some general advice as well. We like to have your faculty advisor as part of your elections, just to monitor them and to be there as a facilitator if something were to go, an issue were to arise. And then if there's people interested in officer positions and they didn't get them, why not explore committee chair options? And there's no real limit to what you can create. Some of them we see commonly are social media chairs, new member educators, philanthropy chairs, event coordinators, pretty much anything that you think could help your chapter, you can create a position for. And it's up to you if you want to hold an election for those positions or appoint them. So who's eligible to even run to be an officer? Do you know? So anyone who is in good standing with us here, which all that takes is to submit an application and pay your membership fee. So it might be a good idea before you hold elections if you want to grab a roster from us and just make sure everybody is eligible to run. Requesting rosters, on a regular basis, it does not bother us. It's our job, and it really just helps you get an idea of where your chapter's at with new members. Then we'll go into our officer checklist in a minute. Is there anything you would add to that, Katie?
I would. So a lot of times I think officers want us to tell you that this is exactly the way that you are supposed to hold an election. And we actually don't have election procedures written into our bylaws because the way that you all set up elections is up to you all as chapter officers. So it is intentional that we do not have election procedures. It is up to you to run your chapter the way that you know functions best for all of you. So we get a lot of questions like we want to make sure that we're not violating PAD policy. Our bylaws are on that resources and policies page. There is a section in there about elections. And as long as you are following the rules in there, you guys are going to be fine. What I do want you all to pay attention to is executive board or executive committee versus committee chairs. So the elected positions are president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Any other role that you all have with your officers, it is up to the chapter whether those are elected roles or those are appointed roles. But that is something for your officers to discuss before the election, and that needs to be part of your communication plan with your membership. Like Zena said, the really big thing is sending us who your officers are. We have an officer update form on that pad.org/resources and policies. You can email Zena, and what we really need is names, titles, and email addresses. We need to know who to contact. Zena is constantly updating our officer roster. Our officers are changing all the time. We understand that people step down, they move to different schools. We understand, but it's so important that you keep in contact with us because so much of the communications from the executive office goes to the officers, and we expect all of you as officers to pass that information on to the rest of your students. Elections, really big focus this semester. And then after elections, we're going to talk about the transitions. Sorry, Zena, go ahead.
Something just came to mind too. We do recommend that who you're electing for officers are willing and able to serve a one-year term. So if people have a winter or fall graduation date, they may not be ideal because then you'll be having to replace them halfway through the year. So it takes, a few months to really get settled in your role, and to change halfway through the year can be a lot for some chapters. So that's just something to keep in mind.
I'm sure you've all had that experience. It's like for Phi Alpha Delta, we expect that our officers serve a one-year term. And a lot of that one-year term, you're just still learning the position. So imagine if it's only a one-semester term, if somebody's graduating, probably not going to be very functional for you all. I'm glad you brought that up, Zena.
But if it does happen, let us know, so that we're not emailing someone who has already graduated.
And I think Zena, I think you already said this, but the other thing is make sure that people are members. If the
Yes.
executive office has not received their membership application and international initiation fee, we do not consider them members and we cannot list them as officers. It's a lot of follow-up on our part when we get students who are reported as officers and we don't have a membership record for them to even follow up on. So at the very least, let's make sure that they have their membership application in so we have their contact information. Even if someone maybe is not able to pay their international initiation fee immediately, at least we'll have someone to follow up with. But to be eligible to run for office, you do need to be a member of Phi Alpha Delta, a paid member of Phi Alpha Delta.
Mhm. I'm gonna move over to our transition.
Does anyone have any questions about elections? Officer transition is just as important as elections, but if you do have questions about elections, please, this is your time to ask us.
Yes, Taylor.
For virtual chapters, the engagement, I know we just struggled with it, even though we pressed out for 2 months, we were holding elections. We only had about 10 people show up when we have 30 fully initiated members. The problem is we're a completely online school as well as a online chapter. So how would those elections go? Because there was in the bylaws, it states that 2/3 of the chapter have to be there, but we can barely get attendance with 2 months notice. So how would you recommend that, handling that situation?
Thing that all of our chapters struggle with. I don't think it's just you all as an online chapter.
Okay.
But I think we can have a more in-depth conversation about your chapter in another call. I know some of the history of your chapter and it's a pretty unique situation. So we can definitely talk more.
Okay. Thank you.
But I hear you, Taylor. I hear you.
Thank you.
I think we touched on this a little bit, but if anyone wanted to share their personal experience as they transitioned into their officer roles, maybe something you learned from it or would improve.
I know something Zena and I hear all the time is, oh my gosh, I was elected into this position and I have nothing. I have no idea where to start. They didn't give me anything. They didn't teach me anything. So if any of you had that experience, I really want you to think about what you wish you would have had. Or if you guys had a great officer transition experience, please let us know all the tips and tricks so that we can pass it on to the other officers. One of the things that I hear works from our officers, which is kind of old school, but it works, is they literally put a binder together for each officer role with everything that you need to know about that. If you're not sure what to put in that binder, again, that resources and policies page has everything. Our bylaws list what we expect from every officer position, all of the deadlines, all of our our expectations are very clear. So I really want to hear about your officer transition experience. Good or bad, ugly, I want to hear about it. Let's share so we can all learn from each other. Is it Shani? Go ahead.
Hey, Jenny. So I'm from the UC Irvine pre-law chapter. So what we do also, it's kind of intertwined with our elections process. So we have, sorry, my roommate just got here. So we have the candidacies, if they want to run for the position, they're required to quote unquote intern under that position, basically shadowing. But that way the officer in the current position right now can work with them and show them how they're putting stuff together behind the scenes. And then outside of that, you're also required to meet on with the officer that you're interested in running with, or the position that you're running under. Have to have a one-on-one meeting. That way they can explain how they do their work. And like, for example, when I had mine with the previous secretary, we kind of went over all the record keeping and then how to connect with nationals and that kind of stuff. She showed me and walked me through all of that, which made my experience really helpful. And so that's how I knew, like, we also had like a Google Drive, and that's what she also walked me through as well. But yeah, and then we had all the information readily available.
I love having the one-on-one meetings. I think that's really important. And that really just helps even deepen your relationship with your fraternity siblings. Google Drive, OneDrive, those are all great as long as you can be sure that everyone has access to them. I went, the Phi Alpha Delta International Executive Board had their board meeting this past weekend. They all use OneDrive to share all of their documents. So great tool as long as everyone can get into them and then you keep it updated. So it sounds like you had a pretty good officer transition experience, and that's why your chapter is still going strong.
Yes, Isabella.
So we actually had our we have like one big Gmail, and previous pad chapters all the way back to like 5 years have used the same Gmail. So every officer will get a login, and it's through our computer. So it was really nice when we were transitioning to have a Google Doc that had our specific transition guide, but also in case you wanted to know how like chapter slides were presented or what Google forms were taken or surveys, it's all in the same doc. And so now when we have like, for instance, our Canva for our social media, we gave that login, but we changed the password so it's different to our Canva account so that our social media chairs, our public relations chairs are able to log in without having access to our exec Gmail. And that really helps.
That's a really good one. And that's so nice that you guys have been able to keep it consistent, because then you do have that history and you can keep your messaging and your branding consistent. Great job.
Yeah, don't want to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. All right. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, okay.
Actually, yeah. I'm from the Case Western pre-law chapter, and I'm currently the treasurer. And I think for me, we actually didn't have a very we didn't have a treasurer very like set in place for the last 2 years, and so I think my transition was a little difficult actually. And so I think being able to transition to a new treasurer next year, I think a lot of I think what I'm planning to do this year is like make a document for all of the for the next treasurer. I think the biggest part is I think figuring out how school funding works and how to make sure that you can like apply that and be able to like we have a pretty big philanthropy event, and I think because my officer transition wasn't necessarily as smooth as it could have been, I think we've had a little trouble like with that funding. So I think just kind of creating a document of exactly how that works, I think would just be so helpful for next year. But yeah, I I think if anyone else is kind of in that same position.
Yeah, I think you as current officers need to put in the work to have those documents to pass on to the new officers. It's like we can tell you everything from the executive office standpoint, but you are all the ones who have the knowledge about how your school works, how campus funding works. And for us, we oversee 600 chapters. We don't know every school's policies right off the top of our head. So that's really why we need you all, and we appreciate all the work that you put into Phi Alpha Delta.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the next slide might have been your question, because somebody asked in here, what does a treasurer do? So if you're not sure where to start, you can always start here with us at the executive office. We'll talk you through it. We can schedule a meeting. Like I said, the bylaws has what we expect from you at the bare minimum. Very quickly, what does the treasurer do? You are the chief financial officer for the chapter. So you are in charge of making sure that people are paying their initiation dues, that we're not initiating anyone that hasn't paid their initiation dues. And then if your chapter has local dues are collected separately. That is for the treasurer to figure out how you are all going to collect those. I just want to touch really quickly on some financial policies. We do not suggest that you all use Cash App, Venmo, those types of electronic payment transfers. We expect that you all open a chapter bank account. Each chapter has an EIN number. That's an employee identification number. That's kind of like the social security number for your chapter. We can provide that to you to open up a bank account for your chapter. Once you have a bank account open, you can collect funds through there. We know people don't do cash and checks anymore. We totally understand that, but most banks have either PayPal or Zelle, and that is going to protect your chapter and your chapter officers so much more than Venmo, Cash App, those types of things. So that's what I'm going to really encourage you to do. If your chapter collects local dues, let's do it through a chapter bank account through the EIN that Phi Alpha Delta can provide you. Sometimes your school has their own kind of bank account set up. And sometimes going through your school has their own challenges. So we always want you to follow your school's rules first. But if you can open a bank account through Phi Alpha Delta, that's going to be the best way to protect you all. We file 990s for each and every one of our chapters every year. That is the tax reporting form for the type of nonprofit that we are. We are a nonprofit. We are not a charity. So we are not tax deductible. So if we want to talk about that, we have the foundation. The foundation is our charitable entity, and those collect donations that are tax deductible. So that was very quickly on the treasurer thing. If anybody wants to dive into this deeper, we always can. But I definitely want to be mindful of your time, and I hope I answered whoever posted this question.
Move on. So this is our officer transition checklist. This is available on our resource page as well. We talked about some things that you have done in the past that could be added to this. These are what we recommend. We want to make sure you have access to things like your social media passwords, your banking information, anything that the preceding officers are going to need, we want it there.
But I think we touched on a lot of these.
Yeah, we did
the call already. I think the big one is the calendar.
Yeah, I did. You know what email I just got? The I think it was today. Was we did not want to do our calendar because we wanted our new officers to do it when they got in, and I just think that's a lot to throw at somebody. And also, for a lot of people, the semester has started. But there's a lot when you become an officer. And so you want to make that as easy of a transition as possible. Something down there, complete award applications. So once you have elected your new officers, we present awards at our pre-law conference, and some of the categories are most outstanding president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So if you had a really good experience with one of your officers, why not nominate them?
So the awards are due by the first Monday in June each year, but we expect that, I suggest that you fill them out all the time. We know how much time and work you guys put into Phi Alpha Delta, and we want to be able to honor those efforts. So consider making that a committee chair position. After every event, fill out one of our awards applications. All of our awards are given out at the pre-law conference in the fall.
So some of the awards for events we have are recruitment events, professional, and then there's like a philanthropy one as well. So you after every event you think is noteworthy, this could be a chair position. You could have an event or awards chair submit an application just on a rolling basis. But yes, like she said, they are due in the beginning of June. Okay. Moving on. Oh, this one we get a lot.
So this is a question I got, and whoever submitted this question, thank you so much, because this is one that we are hearing more at the executive office, and these are discussions that we are having with our board and with our legal. So are we allowed to establish an attendance standard for our committee chairs? And I'll also push us a little bit further, and let's talk about, can you have an attendance standard for your members? We're going to this a little bit more Phi Alpha Delta has an open membership policy. Our open membership policy says anyone can join Phi Alpha Delta. To join, they just have to be in good standing, however your school defines it, submit their application, submit their fees, and then they are eligible to attend an initiation ceremony. So our open membership policy says there cannot be any other requirements for membership. So that means you cannot have required attendance at events as part of the membership process. So you can't say you have to come to an interest meeting before you can submit an application. People can submit an application and join Phi Alpha Delta at any time, as long as they're in good standing, however your school defines that. I think people ask this question because you're putting on these great events and nobody's showing up. And I think our members think the answer to that is to have an attendance expectation, an attendance policy. You may set up an attendance policy. You may have attendance expectations for your officers, for your members. I want you all to keep in mind what kind of culture that you want to have at your chapter. When you are putting together attendance standards, I want them to be very much rewards based and not punishment based. The attendance policy for committee chairs, you're going to have to also look at bylaws, and are those committee chairs appointed or are they elected? Because for elected positions, you have to go through a different process to remove an officer than if someone is appointed as a committee chair and is not meeting their attendance requirements. When somebody is appointed, it's much easier to remove them from their chair position. So yes, you can establish an attendance standard. I really like to see them be reward based instead of punishment based. Sometimes people will do point systems where every meeting you attend, you earn points towards maybe getting an LSAT prep course or something like that. So this is definitely a question that we're getting more from our chapters. And I think the core issue is that engagement and getting members to show up. Is having an attendance policy going to get members to show up? I'm not sure.
And I'm going to go deeper into the attendance, like some suggestions I have for that in a minute too. But is there any questions on that before we continue? Okay. Move on.
I mean, if you're going to put together any kind of policy or attendance expectations for your chapter, I think everything comes down to communication. So make sure that you're communicating with your members and that they have a say in how the policy goes. And how are you defining excused and unexcused absences?
So we're open this for discussion. Why did you join PAD? And what are some of your most successful events?
So I kind of want to touch on engagement here. It's like we hear from our chapters that they're holding these great events and people aren't coming. What events are people going to? What makes them different than the ones that people aren't showing up to? If you ask me, I think that it's if they're the fun events and if people have friends going to the events and if they're getting something out of it. We always say that try to pair your chapter meeting with some type of an event because nobody wants to go sit in a classroom and just talk about business. They want to make sure they're getting something. So either you're doing a LinkedIn headshots or you're doing a resume review or you're having someone come in about personal statements. I want to hear some good stories about what events, what programming really work at your chapter. Do you have a hallmark event that you guys do every semester or every year? This is kind of your time to like brag on your chapter and what works well for you.
I see Jacob has his hand up.
Hi, yeah, my name is Jacob. I'm the president of the Binghamton University chapter of Phi Alpha Delta. And our hallmark event for the semester, by far the one that we get the most people go to, is we have an overnight law school trip, 2 places in the area. So I think this semester will be our 4th semester doing it. So we've done law schools. We went to Cornell, fall 23. Then we did one in Boston where we toured Northeastern and Harvard, and there was one more that I'm blanking on, but all places where we're a pre-law chapter, so all places where we have alums. We're going to DC this semester, and that always, like, we have to only offer a limited amount of spots because we can only afford so many worth of like hotel rooms for people, but they're always jockeying for the spots and everyone wants to go, and it's by far our most successful event. So yeah, I think the kind of setting people's sights on their future is really what kind of motivates them to come, and they love it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jacob. And what I really loved about that is that you are tapping into that Phi Alpha Delta network. That is our biggest benefit. We are not just some pre-law club on your campus. We have chapters at these law schools. We have alumni in those areas.
Sam, would you like to share?
Yeah, so the most successful event that we do at Temple is we throw a law school fair every spring. In my role as an officer last year, I was the one organizing that, and we got 15 schools to come to that. And our attendance was right around 100 students, whether it was in our legal studies department and our business school, because we're associated with the business school through that. But also just people from College of Liberal Arts that have heard about us, or from the Pre-Law Society, from other schools in Temple. So yeah, that's by far our most successful event. We make sure that everyone dresses up in a suit and tie, and it's we also cater it too. So we have all of our officers help out with that.
Great. The law schools know Phi Alpha Delta. I hear from the law schools all the time from the admissions rep that they love the Phi Alpha Delta students. So I really encourage all of you to consider doing some type of law school fair at your campus. You can probably take it a little bit further and even charge those law schools a little bit to represent at your fair. You are the students that they want to meet, and they want those opportunities to get in front of you.
Grace, would you like to share?
Yes. Hi. I'm Grace. I'm the director of fundraising at University of Iowa PAD chapter. And I would say our most hallmark events of the year are our pro trip, which we do every single fall. We go to the Chicago forum that I think is led by PAD, and that is super successful. We kind of make it into a bonding event, and we try to go out to eat one of the nights and just kind of make it a weekend thing that's really fun. We also have a formal every spring, which is similar to, I would say, like your more traditional Greek life stuff. So we'll all try to get together and like dress up at a venue and just kind of have it be more of a social thing. And we also try to do weekly stuff as a chapter, just more of like bonding stuff, like, hey, we're gonna go out to eat after this if anybody wants to come, or stuff like that. More laid back, less structured events, but I feel like it really helps the bonding with our chapter and really like makes people want to be friends with each other and stuff, and it doesn't seem so like rigid and professional like all the time. Obviously that's important, but I think like it makes it a lot less intimidating for especially some of the underclassmen when they know people outside of that professional setting.
Yeah, you're so right, Grace. It's like, yes, we are a professional association, but your job as pre-law officers is to create that community. We want you to be social. We want you to be friends, and you can work hard, play hard. So love. We do only have about 15 more minutes in this presentation. We have so much to get through. So we're going to speed through a little bit. Kaylin, I saw you had your hand up. I want to hear about your event. And then we're going to try and keep it moving because we want to be respectful of all of your time. I love that you guys are speaking and being more interactive with us. Kaylin, please go ahead.
I'll make it really, really quick. Hi, my name's
Great.
Howdy. I'm the president of the Columbus State Phi Alpha Delta chapter. And one thing that I've like really seen a lot of people want to see is like mock trials, debates, and stuff like that. And we actually open them up to the public. So like we'll do them in front of everybody, and people are really interested in it. Like that's what they want to see the most. Mock trials, mock trials, mock trials. That's what I hear all the time.
I hear that too. I hear a lot of times people join Phi Alpha Delta just for the mock trial. So tap into that. We would love to see you all at mock trial at the pre-law conference at the end of the fall. We normally had 12 teams. This year we opted to 14 teams. If we keep that interest up, we can keep growing with all of you.
So I had a quick question on that.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Charlotte Bordegary. I'm the president of the Texas Tech chapter. So I've been to DC twice, my sophomore and junior year, for the pre-law conference and mock trial comp. And something that we noticed, we're a smaller chapter compared to most of the other teams that we were surrounded by were Florida teams. So they had a lot of members who were able to travel out there and attend the conference who weren't doing mock trial, but we found that we had struggled a lot, I think, maintaining that I guess divide between mock trial and the conferences at the same time. I don't know if that's making sense, but we were just finding that the conference, the way it was scheduled, was backing up into all the rounds. So it was a very exhaustive day for the people. So I was just wondering if there was any sort of preliminary schedule for this year's conference, that maybe we could try to ask our Student Government Association for more money to send members for the conference portion.
Okay, that is actually responses that we saw on our surveys from pre-law conference. So this past year, we actually did completely change up the agenda so that there was not all this mock trial and conference attendance things.
Gotcha.
Because we understand that like the students, they don't want to go to this programming when they want to be practicing for their trials. So yes, we hear our members' concerns and we address them. So the agenda was completely different this year to combat that.
I didn't actually get to go, so I apologize. I didn't get to see how that turned out, but I just wanted to check in because we're kind of like you said.
Glad you checked in.
Oh, I think she may have froze.
Yeah, so just to say, we all hear your voices. We are always trying to improve and meet you all where you are and what you need, what gaps you see at your school. We want Phi Alpha Delta to be able to fill those in.
I will say real quick, while we're on this topic, people who did attend pre-law conference, you notice that the people who are winning all of these awards are Florida, and that is mostly because they are the only people applying for their awards. So please apply. Please apply to as many awards as you want, as many times as you want, because we're not biased. So moving on to programming, should I keep this quick? So these are the expectations on the side for your calendar. We do ask for these in advance of each semester, and that is so that you can have a plan in place. And the dates can be tentative, events can change. This is just so you have some guidance to work off of. I do think having a calendar in place definitely will get people to attend your events more. If they can plan for it, they can block off time for it. It's going to help with a question that we get a lot where we don't have space or a room available. If you can plan far in advance, you can try to mitigate some of those issues there. Let me see anything else.
If you're not sure where to start with your programming calendar, check out the calendar on pad.org. We are adding webinars and all kinds of things on there all the time. We have past recordings on our YouTube. You guys could do like a watch party type of thing. And always remember, reach out to us. We'll connect with law school students and alumni. We talked about what were some of your successful events, and it seems like the ones that really tapped into that PAD network are the ones that are successful. All of this stuff is in the chapter operations guide.
Yes, I didn't want to stay too long on anything because I know we're short on time, but if you're filling out your calendar, you have no idea what to do, you're facing barriers, fill it out as best as you can and just submit it to us early, and we can help you find solutions to filling in the gaps. Okay. This is another one we get a lot of fundraising. So is there any examples of a fundraising event you do at your school? Because I'm sure other chapters would love to hear about it.
This is definitely something that I want to spend time on. So even if this is the last topic that we talk about today, I really want to hear from you all. I checked out the registration list for who signed up for today's session, and a lot of you guys attended pre-law conference. If you were able to attend pre-law conference, please share how you were able to fundraise. Before we start sharing, I want everyone to think about what is your goal for fundraising? Who is leading it? Do you have a fundraising chair? And then remember, fundraising, you can't just lean on one thing. You're going to have to get funding from your school. Some of it's going to be out of pocket. Some of it's going to be fundraisers. Sometimes your school is going to say that they don't have funds. Where else can you go to ask for them? And just very quickly, we have the foundation, our charitable entity. We can set up a donation site for you all through pad.org. All of those donations will go straight to our foundation that we will disperse to your chapter. So really want to hear from you all about what works for fundraising. Valentine's Day is coming up. I hear people sell like candy grams. You guys can like make those bracelets that are the thing now. Would love to hear from you all about your successful fundraising.
Taylor, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm actually Paige. I'm just on Taylor's computer. She's
sorry about that.
But we actually just started a position. I'm fundraising chair. It's brand new this year. So what I've done is I spoke to Raising Cane's, Seven Brew Coffee. We're from Lubbock, Texas Tech. And Chipotle. And I reached out to them because they do those fundraiser type things. So I've already gotten those set up, like about once a month from now until like April or May. And then so we just have like get it out to the school, other pre-law chapters outside of just PAD. And then people just go get food, and then that place gives us a percentage of the money that is made.
Restaurant percentage nights are such an easy win for fundraising. You set the date, you share that date, people show up. This is another opportunity for you all to get social with each other. It's an opportunity to network. You can invite all kinds of different people. So love a restaurant percentage night. Sometimes those restaurants will ask you guys for the W-9. That is a tax ID form that we can provide for you as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Paige.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else?
I want to hear two more good fundraisers. Mason, I saw you put one in the chat. Do you want to share? Or Sam, go ahead.
Oh.
You can go first. It's fine.
You go, Sam. You're up.
Okay. Well, we have a few different methods of fundraising. One of them is the law school fair. We charge schools $200 to attend.
Great.
And then the other method is through the business school. Every organization gets allocations for every event. So for speaker events, we get $25 or $50 if they're an alumni of Temple. And for every session of a workshop, for example, we do LSAT preparation sessions every week. That it is another $25 we get a week. We actually have another fundraising event tomorrow. We do a bake sale just about every month or every other month. So we do simple things like that to supplement it. And then we also have our dues.
Let's not forget about local dues. Thank you for sharing.
All right, Mason. Mason, you ready to share?
Mason?
I don't know if he's still with us.
Did I see one more hand?
I think
Share.
there's just him.
I'm Bella. I'm from the University of South Carolina pre-law chapter. I'm the vice president. One of the fundraisers that we did that was really successful this year that we started was a merch fundraiser. So we actually bought the merchandise through the PAD account, and then we upcharged people, and our members knew that we did this, of course, but we upcharged them, I think like 20% or something like that, and we ended up making like $500 on that, and our members got really cute merch. Then we designed it ourselves, so we had like baby tees, tank tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts. We had multiple different options that people could choose from.
Love a merch sale. Merchandise is actually a pretty considerate budget line item for Phi Alpha Delta as the executive office board. So don't sleep on merch. And you guys have the style that we may not.
Okay.
Do you want to try again, Mason?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
We can.
Okay. I apologize for that. I was on a train, but now I'm off of it. So yeah, we do local dues here at UMD. Also, I'm the University of Maryland chapter president. We do local dues, and then we also do a lot of fundraisers throughout the semester. So usually we'll have at least one restaurant fundraiser. We do an event called Puppies for PAD, where we have Pets on Wheels come by, and we kind of do like a joint event with them where people get to interact with the dogs and then donate to both PAD and Pets on Wheels organization. We also do a late night bake sale, kind of because we're a big city, like a big campus with a lot of nightlife. We'll do like a late night bake sale where we kind of get all the people coming out of like the bars and restaurants and get them to buy our baked goods that our members have made for money. And then we also
What a great
do
idea.
like a couple other things. Like we were going to have a Pad Olympics this semester, like basically an Olympic style event where we're raising money as well. So we just like to get creative, and our finance chair is always very great at making up really cool events.
Thank you, Mason. Last thing I want to say on fundraising, because we are so out of time. When you guys are raising money, make sure you're raising money for your chapter. A lot of times people get community service confused with that. If you're raising money, make sure it's benefiting your chapter. For community service, donate your time. All right, Zena, let's see how fast we can slide through these. We're going to skip some for sure. We've talked about pre-law conference. Do you want me to talk about funding really quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go over the options.
So, the fraternity expects that each chapter is represented by at least one member at pre-law conference. To help meet that expectation, one member from every chapter gets their registration fee waived. So you're still responsible for your hotel and travel costs, but one member from each chapter gets the registration fee waived. In addition to that, we have payment plans available for the registration fee. And the foundation, our charitable entity, also has grants that you all can apply for, and that can either go towards your registration fee or your travel and hotel. Moving on.
Do you want to discuss recruitment? We talked about the
Spring
box you can
recruitment.
request.
Yep. So spring recruitment is often forgotten. A lot of times people get a lot of members during the fall, and then spring, it's about like half members that we get in the fall. So just remember, recruitment is year round. Every event that you guys hold is an opportunity to recruit. Recruitment is important because that's bringing in new members, new perspectives, and only going to strengthen your chapter. We have resources available for you. We have a new staff member named La Chate. She is about DEI leadership, but she has so much recruitment experience. If recruitment is something that you struggle with, let's schedule a call and we're going to talk through what's going to work best at your campus. Let's go. You guys can read this another day. We will be posting these slides.
We went over
I
the
talked
open
about
membership.
open membership. Please be very conscious of the words that you are using. We do not use words like rush, pledge, classes. We are Phi Alpha Delta. We are a fraternity, but we do not follow those Greek norms. We do not want anyone to even get the impression that their membership may not be accepted. No matter where you are in your legal education and career, Phi Alpha Delta has a place for you.
So how to join, apply, pay, get initiated. If you have questions about who has done these steps or not, request a roster.
Great.
Yep. All right, fees and dues. A common misconception is that you have a one-time lifetime fee. That's not the case. As a pre-law member, your pre-law membership is covered by that first initial fee for your entire undergrad and or master's degree time. After that, you need to transition to a law membership or auxiliary. Law memberships are for life, so once you make that transition, you are good to go. It's discounted from our normal law initiation fee, so it's only $80. It says that right down here. So once you've committed to a law school, you can go ahead and start that process. So all of your members who are graduating this spring should start thinking about this. And then online, you can find all of our law schools that we're at.
We understand $150 is a scary number for a lot of college students. So again, we do have a monthly payment plan available for that fee. And you also might want to consider fundraising or setting aside some funds for students where maybe the payment plan isn't even accessible enough. I am hearing more and more that schools are setting up programs for students to be able to attend student activities. So that's also a question to ask.
Something I will talk about, I highly recommend making sure that they have paid their international fee before you collect dues, because it can get very confusing and upsetting if somebody pays their, most of the time much smaller dues, and then they didn't know they had to pay the international fee. and then you're asking for that afterwards. It can be very upsetting for some people. It's easier, just make sure they've collected it, then start collecting dues. And make sure they know the difference. There's like an educational meeting about that.
So the international initiation fee should really be paid before you collect any local dues.
Okay. Moving on, so people can be intimidated by the initiation fee, but it is more than covered by our benefits, which we have lots of. Katie, do you want to go through some of those?
Our number one benefit is our network. Phi Alpha Delta is well respected in the legal community. We are the largest legal organization behind the American Bar Association. That's something that I always use in my elevator pitch. I tell my friends what I do for work. They don't remember, but they can remember we are the second largest legal organization behind the American Bar. So network is number one. We have formed these partnerships with a lot of these LSAT prep companies, personal statement companies. Not only are they giving a discount to you all as members, they will all come and speak to your chapter. They want to come and speak to your chapter. So I think Kaplan gives 25% off. The Princeton Review, I think, gives 15-20% off. So for Kaplan, that's like $400 off of a course. So yes, you're paying $150 to join, but if you just use one of your membership benefits, it's going to pay for itself. I want to toot our own horn a little bit. You have all of us here at the executive office. We are a staff of 7, and our whole job is making sure that all of your chapters are operating well and that you're getting the resources you need to make an informed decision about law school.
So explore our benefits page more so you can articulate this with the rest of your chapter and your potential members, but it does pay for itself pretty much right away. We kind of discussed this. Once you're a pre-law student, you graduate, your membership becomes inactive. So you have to pick one of these options. Auxiliary is an option for those not going to law school right away or at all. You know, paralegals, legal secretaries, people taking gap years. So we have an informational page on that if you'd like to explore that option and share that with your chapter members. We also have alumni chapters once you finish law school, so you can continue your participation.
We just pulled some numbers from the American Bar Association on law students, and most people are taking gap years. And a lot of times that gap year is not 1 year, it's 3 to 5 years. So we want to keep you connected with Phi Alpha Delta, and you can do that through the auxiliary.
Oh, this is huge. For those who have their initiation dates set, please request your initiation materials. Do not request them 1 to 2 weeks out because they will not make it to you in time. If someone needs their materials like yesterday, they can order them for a $10 fee. But anytime once you've requested your materials, you only have to do it once. Every month that you have more than 3 people eligible, we will just continuously send you your materials.
So as soon as you guys know what your initiation ceremony date is, please report that to us. Send us when you fill out this form, all it's asking for is your initiation ceremony date and your mailing address. As soon as you know your initiation ceremony date, send it to us so we can get those materials sent out. Materials are no longer sent out through the executive office, so we really need to get those dates as soon as you all know them.
And so your materials are going to be the membership certificate and pin, which is paid for with your initiation fee.
Mason, I see a question here. Sorry.
Yeah, my question is just mostly so for like a chapter like UMD where we get a lot of new members, if we're thinking about requesting initiation materials for an upcoming initiation, but we know that we still have like recruitment events to go where we could potentially get more people, and then those people would get their dues paid, like should we just wait because then we'd be able to have their sorry, what'd you say?
2 ceremonies.
Yeah.
Ceremonies.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, should we just wait a little bit longer to be able to have
No.
Okay.
We send them monthly. So we want to just they'll keep rolling them out, and they're gonna have the initiation date you reported are gonna be printed on them.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And if they don't make the first one, then they'll just get their certificate. You can individually give it to them, give them a coronation while they wait, or they can wait for the next ceremony. Let me move on. So yeah, these are
all of these links are on our resources page. Sorry.
On deadlines are also all going to be on the operations guides. But here
But
they
if you
are.
guys want to save the date, pre-law conference is November 5th through the 9th. We would love to see you all there and see your chapter represented. Founders Day is falling during pre-law conference this year, so we might have some fun programming there for you all as well.
More on your resources with us. Do you want to go through any of this or just move forward?
Nah, we'll send these
Okay.
slides out to you all.
So
We're
here's
at
our
a little
contact
bit over an
information.
hour.
I will remind you that we are located in Towson, Maryland, and we operate 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. So if when you're requesting your personal sessions or waiting for us to get back to you, we are operating on Eastern Standard Time. But otherwise, there's our
Thank you
contact
all for
information.
being here with us tonight.
If there's any additional questions, we are here for you right now. Otherwise, you can email us, request a meeting.
We are all here as your resource. We hope we come off as very approachable. We don't want you to ever be scared to reach out to nationals. It is our job to help you. We want you all to be successful. I'm always trying to keep you out of trouble, not get you into trouble. So if you're not sure if something's with policy or not, please just ask so we can talk about it. We try to be very accessible. We have email, phone call. I have my cell phone number in my email signature. If you're someone who likes to text, you can text me about Phi Alpha Delta. I've worked here for 12 years. I can talk about it forever. But we really appreciate you all being here tonight and participating. That's always my goal, is to be more interactive. You guys have the knowledge that I want you all to share. So thank you so much.